So how did you guys meet?
In high school, we both went to what now is Front Range. It was it Botech then? You could go half a day for HVAC, and then so he went to a different high school, Fort Collins High School, and I went to Pooter, and we met in HVAC school
Yep.
in
11th
'85.
grade, high school.
Yeah,
Turns out we crossed paths prior to that probably, but we just didn't get to know each other until we got into high school
right.
or into that class. So, how did you pick that?
That's funny.
Because
I
I mean, my dad was in the business, but like you just,
I was I was working at a grocery store out in LaPorte. I grew up, and there was a guy that came in there to work on all our refrigeration stuff, and he was a cool guy, and he was always nice to me. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll do that. So not a lot of thought went into it. It was just kind of on. I knew I wasn't going to go to college. Just was never on my radar to do that, and so I just thought, what the heck, I'll do that. And I didn't want to go into automotive. My brother was doing that, and kind of what my dad did, and something different.
yeah.
So
We,
you
we,
look back on it now, it's kind of funny. It's like some guy came into the grocery store that I thought was cool, and so we that was my ended up being my career path.
yeah, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, 'cause I grew up in it and thought, well, I thought I already knew everything, of course,
Right.
going into it, but I could have gotten a lot more out of the classes if I didn't have that attitude. If I was a little more humble, but
Well, when
it was
you're
good.
16, 17, it's kind of we
You
were
know it all.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, not only that, I didn't apply myself very much in school. Of course, we just wanted to get through it and be get done and get started with life.
When you were in high school, did you think you wanted to go into HVAC?
I wanted it to be a backup. I honestly, I looked at some of the struggles my dad had in business, and he was successful, but wasn't without a lot of hours and uh, tough times and things like that. So I thought kind of took a toll on him, and thought, well, maybe I'll do something different. I had an entrepreneurial spirit, wanted to be in business for myself somehow, but um, yeah, I actually pursued a career in uh, firefighting for a little while, but it was the wrong time and wrong, wrong, minority.
Yeah.
That was
I'll
during,
cut that out.
yeah. It was during
So how did you
affirmative
guys end
action.
up working together?
Well, so we I worked with Vic for so my first job in HVAC was actually for Glenn's uncle Lee. He had a company called Temtech, and right when I got out of high school, I went to work for him for not very long. It was probably only 5, 6 months maybe, and he was a little tough to work for at the time. He was a little a little ornery, and we kind of butted heads. And then I quit. It was kind of a mutual parting. We'll say that to be nice, but then I went back. I was working at a tire shop, which was Wheeler's, which is now the Jack's store out north. What is it called? Farm
Farm
and
and ranch,
Ranch.
yeah.
And it was a tire shop, so I was busting tires and doing tractor tires and stuff. And I had applied at Poudre Valley Air, and one of the guys, ironically, that we went to school with, who was just a kind of a blowhard and ended up getting the job that I applied for. Remember Gary?
Mm-hmm.
And he
Yeah.
washed out, and I think he got a DUI or something, got fired, and then they hired. Well, I take that back. He was still there. They ended up hiring me as a shop helper, and so I was just working in the shop, mostly insulating duct work and cleaning up and just being a shop apprentice. And then he got a DUI, got fired in the service department, and then I moved into the service department, and Vic was working there at the time, and so we ended up after I was there for a year or two, we ended up working together almost every day doing installs and you were at uh,
I was at Foothill
Foothill
Service.
Service.
Yeah, right. Pretty much out of high school, I went to work for
Yeah,
Tom at Foothill Service.
and Glenn and I were roommates too, so we rented a house together when we got out of high school. So he was working for Foothill Service. I was working at Poudre Valley Air with Vic, and did that for about 8 years.
Yeah, I think
So-
you had a good 10 years in the trade by the time you came back to work.
Well, I went there, and then a brief stint at Northern Colorado Air when you were there,
That's right. Yep.
and then I
Before
quit. I actually quit the industry briefly and worked with my brother doing custom cars and automotive. Just didn't work out very good working with my brother, and then I moved to Las Vegas. Had a buddy of mine that we had become good friends, and Mark, and he had graduated from CSU and moved out to Las Vegas and talked me into moving out there, and so I did, and I ended up being there for about almost 3 years. Worked for another heating and air conditioning company, Southwest Air out there, and then Glenn, after he bought the business or started whatever, we were just talking, and he asked me if I was interested in moving back and going to work for Fort Collins Heating, and I was kind of ready to leave anyway. I had enough of Vegas. Was fun for a couple of years, but not somewhere I wanted to get married and have kids and raise a family. But so it was good timing, and you only had 2 people at the time, I think, right, or 3.
Yeah, I had one person besides my dad, I think. Yeah.
Mike, the
Mike,
installer guy. Yeah.
But did you know you wanted to hire Jon, or were you just looking for another guy?
Yeah. I was looking for somebody, but yeah, we became really good friends. I mean, best friends. I would say we were best friends in high school. We lived together for
Was the best man in your wedding?
Best man in the wedding. We just hit it off right away in Botech, Front Range Community College. We connected really well.
But did you give him an idea of what he would be doing for you?
Gosh, I don't remember very much. I mean, it was just coming to work. It was a small company.
Yeah, it was small, so we had three or four of us, and so it was all hands on deck. I mean, Dad was running service calls and doing installations with Mike, and
I think I primarily ran service when I came
to
start with.
Service, and you stayed in that position for.
I didn't do very many installs. Do you want to pause that and see if the wind is, because I feel the wind blowing.
So we're live, so whenever you guys are ready, just go ahead and start.
Well, cheers to 25 years, Jon.
Thank you.
And 27 years, Dad. That's you guys have been with me from the beginning, and so thanks for joining us. We had a hard time getting this scheduled with all of us, with all of our schedules. Your surgery and Jon's traveling and my busy schedule.
I want to know, Vic, what's the first thing you remember about Fort Collins Heating and Air Conditioning as that name?
As that name? He bought it from my dad. He said he wanted to start his own. I said, go talk to Grandpa, and he did. He came back and he wanted me to go in business with him. I said, no, I'll work for you, support you, but I'll never be a partner, money-wise or anything. You're the boss. I'd already been that way with my dad.
Didn't want to
do it again.
Didn't want to be in, and you had your own business for what, 12, 15 years or something?
Not quite that long. I started my own business when interest rates hit 22%.
Yeah, we think 6% is bad.
Yeah, and my business line of credit, you couldn't pay off or it couldn't pay debt, and I had a bunch of uncollectibles that people went bankrupt against, and I had 2 houses I didn't get paid for, 10 cents on the dollar. And so I put my business up for sale, and it sold. And I managed a big company in Denver making high-speed sheet metal equipment that all the sheet metal shops buy. And I went to work, got tired of traveling down there, and I went to work at Food Valley Air, and that's when Jon ended up being my helper, and we just cruised along together for about 2 years together.
It was more than that.
Yeah.
Let's pause. I think my mom wanted to come out. Yeah, I think my mom.
So tell us how you guys met.
Well, go ahead.
So we were both in high school. We went to different high schools in Fort Collins, and both chose to go to Front Range. Now it used to be called VOTEC, but we went half a day to high school and half a day to tech school, and it was the HVAC program, and we just kind of hit it off right away in that program, and became friends after that.
Yep.
And, when they graduated from high school, they moved in and rented a house together right out of high school.
I remember you saying, "Don't live together if you guys want to stay friends."
Yeah, that worked
And
out.
they proved that wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, we lived. We were roommates out of high school for, how many?
Like
4 or 5 years.
something like that.
Yeah.
But you guys didn't work together right away, right?
No, we. I was. So after we got out of high school, was it during high school you started working for Lee, my uncle?
Right after I graduated, I worked for Vic's brother, Glenn's uncle Lee, the company called Temtech, and worked there for about, I don't know, 5-6 months probably. And we just ended up kind of parting ways. It was a little tough to get along with.
He wasn't as easygoing as
he's a little
Vic,
more mellow now. And then so I actually left the trade at the time briefly and went back to work at Wheelers, which is now Jack's ranch or whatever, and was doing tires, busting tires for tractors and trucks. And I had applied at Poudre Valley Air at the time, and I didn't get hired right away. I got hired eventually as a shop helper, and there was another guy that we had gone to school with that had gotten hired at the same time as a service tech, which is what I had applied for. But I went ahead and took the shop helper job, and then shortly after that, he ended up getting a DUI and losing his job, and then they asked me to move into service, and then Vic and I started. He was already there, and we basically worked together for, I don't know what, 6-8 years, something like that. Almost every day. I mean, the first couple of years I was there, I did other stuff, but we ended up doing install together for a number of years. And Vic's been a huge influence in my life as kind of my second dad. I mean, we spent a lot of time together, and really had a big influence on my life.
I think you guys got to work together probably more than I did with my dad, actually, directly.
Yeah.
And then we'd stop by our house every day after work and play a little knock poker.
Drink some, have some spirits.
Yeah.
Some
Well,
beer.
Vic, I want to know what Jon was like back then.
Jon was very trainable and fast learner. Him and I were on installation jobs, and it got to a point where we knew each other's moves. We were working so long, and I taught him how to get the line sets and straighten them out. And he surpassed the way I was doing it. He had a new way to do. He was taller, so he could just wheel it out and I had to move ladders to do it. And but in the heyday of him and I, when they were selling air conditioners like crazy, Jon and I were putting in 4 a day. Just the two of us. We would load the first air system on our truck and go, and they would have the units set out for us on the next 3. And we were knocking out 4 air conditioners a day.
So tell the installation team again, how many you do in one day?
Yeah, in all fairness, it was a little different then. We didn't use vacuum pumps.
No.
We cut the coil in the plenum and
it was a purge.
You need purge R22 right through it to clean it.
Hook the hose up and wait till you could smell it coming out the other side. There was no regulations. There was no.
Right.
I mean, that was kind of the standard. Everybody did it. It was just.
And it was R22, which is now is not. But it was a cheap.
I still run across some of those systems that we put in that are
still
working.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've run across them too. Yeah, some of those ones I don't think we pulled or we used nitrogen on those. And
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then get the moisture out with your nitrogen, and then purge liquid freon in
We didn't
until it
even
came back out vapor.
we didn't even carry vacuum pumps back then.
Not then, back then.
Never had one on my truck for years.
Yeah.
Times have changed.
They definitely require a lot more from. Got to hand it to our installers these days. All the stuff that they got to do compared to what we did is a lot different.
Yeah.
Well, and also it slowed down at Cooter Valley Air that they started selling the upgrades. And first they would not give very many hours for the upgrades. They go, well, you've got a department, you're putting them in anyway.
Right.
But it added double the time. Usually, humidifier, electronic air cleaner, upgraded air conditioner, or whatever. So,
that was one of the struggles I had when I started in sales and I still sometimes struggle with that, just having enough hours for the guys with what's required these days compared to what it used to be. Because I think in my head, like, oh, it takes X amount of time to do it. And all the stuff that they have to do now with duct sealing and triple evacuations and nitrogen purge and everything that we didn't do. Like, oh, this shouldn't take very long, and it's just time consuming stuff.
We do nicer work nowadays. I think.
I
was on a job just the other day, one of our new construction installers, and I was just amazed at the quality. It just looked so nice, I mean, we always did nice work too, but I'm real proud of the work that we're putting out. The guys are that's something that's been able to be not only kept up but improved upon.
Oh, for sure.
Actually.
So how did you guys end up working together, Jon and Glenn?
So after I was in the trade here I was at Poudre Valley, I think 8 or 9 years, and then I briefly Glenn and I worked together for a short period of time at Northern Colorado Air, just doing new construction housing, and I knew that's not what I wanted to do. And then I actually got out of the trade for a little while and worked with my brother doing custom cars, and that didn't last very long. And I had a good friend of mine that we'd become good friends. He went to CSU, and then he graduated and moved to Las Vegas, and he talked me into moving with him, and I ended up out there for about almost 3 years. Worked for another HVAC company out there, doing like residential, light commercial. I was mostly doing service and new startups, and then in that period of time, Glenn had started Fort Collins Heating and Air Conditioning, and I don't remember how exactly it came up, but we were talking on the phone, and
we stayed in communication real well. Like,
they've been in touch since they came out here and stuff.
We, we became best friends in high school, and then of course were roommates for several years. And but I was growing. I think I was just starting to grow. My dad had come to work for me a year or so prior to that, and we just needed more help. And we had been communicating, and you were thinking about moving back here anyway.
I was kind of ready. I'd done the Vegas experiment and wanted to have a family and settle down. Didn't want to do it there, and so it was good timing when you asked. And so I moved back. It was in June of '96, if I remember right. Came back
96 or 7.
Lived with you when I came back. He rented me a room in his house, and there was at one time it was just 3 of us and another guy there. But
there's 3 or 4 of us, I think, in the beginning when you came.
How many trucks did you have when you started out?
Well, when we started, it was just me at first.
Yeah.
It was just me. It was a startup basically. My grandfather had, there was no business really to buy other than just the sheet metal equipment. So, it was just me for a little while, and then pretty quickly I hired a helper, and then I hired my dad soon after that. And he and that helper that I hired were doing most of the installations, and I was trying to do the service, keep up with the service work. And then when Jon came along, he took over the service work and stayed in doing service for
pretty much from '96 to about 2009. Was doing all this service, and most of the last few years was mostly just commercial service, I think, for the most part. And then that's when moved into the sales department, or there was no department.
Yeah, you were the
Yeah, you
I
were.
was it.
Well, it was me. I was
Right.
doing the sales,
You just got where you
and
couldn't do it.
Dad was doing some of the sales, but I was doing a lot of the sales, um, and I remember around that early time, I couldn't afford to pay overtime too much, so I was on call all the time too, and then Dad too. He was on call all the time, so it was just the two of us. And then you started on the call later on, but um, yeah, it was humble beginnings, and I think I don't know how long it took us to get to where we were. Probably what 10 or 12, maybe.
About 10, 12 years.
Yeah.
And they were decent trucks, but they were fairly ratty, used.
Had a few old ones for
Yeah.
sure.
You drove the old '91 Ford we bought out of we were on I think we were on a job site, and it was sitting in the field, and Dad said, well, they got a truck out. We needed another truck, and like, they got a truck out here, it runs. And I said, well, tell them we'll buy. I think we paid, I don't know, $1,800 or something for it. Motor went out pretty quickly afterwards. I remember that, so we had to put a motor in it. That was a '91 F-150 pickup, club cab, yeah. And
You didn't have vans back then, right? You just had the truck.
Just pickups at first.
I remember what I drove when I got you had the
I gave you my
old
truck.
number 4 or 3 or whatever it
You,
was.
you got number one.
Or was it number 1?
Yeah.
Well, not right away though. I felt like you were still driving it. I had something else. I thought.
Yeah. I mean, Mike was driving that number 2, that helper of mine. I had number 1, and then the '91 was number 3. I think when you came on, I gave you my truck, and then I got a new truck.
You had a dually or something.
It was a 1-ton, 8-foot bed. Yeah.
Crew cab 8. I remember that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we started buying some vans, I think, not too long after that. I think I put you in a van, didn't I? That old E150.
Yeah.
Did you guys have a logo back then?
Well, we had just lettering font,
But it was still with the diamond plate lettering, I think. Wasn't
no,
it?
it was just
No?
silver.
Oh, really?
And the strategy then was we went with black. So I started off with a black truck, and so we kept that theme of black trucks for quite a while, but it got hard to find black vehicles, especially
well, then
vans.
As they get older, they look kind of crappy. They get faded out, and then,
Yeah. So we had black vehicles to stand out because everybody else had white. So we had black vans, black trucks with silver lettering, and then it was like in '07 or '08. I think after that. I think it was when we rebranded.
The flame idea.
Well, the flames, we were always, Dad was into hot rods and you were into cars, and I thought it was just something that would grab attention, and that was about the time too where the vinyl wraps, you could get multicolored. You could have them print the color, because before we just had one color, and so they were able to print multicolor. So we went with the flame wrapped front, and I think my brother-in-law Todd came up with the diamond plate Fort Collins heating and air conditioning logo that we still use a variation of that now. We've tweaked it. Todd's helped us tweak it a little bit, and we've made it. Actually, we just changed it a little bit more recently. So
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where that all came from. We just wanted something that would stand out, and be noticeable driving down the road, and I think it worked.
Yeah, there's not funny. You can't drive across town these days without seeing a Fort Collins heating vehicle of some kind.
Yeah.
You get everywhere you go.
Yeah.
John, did you ever work directly with Glenn? Were you guys ever out in the field together?
Just when we worked at NCA, we worked together. We tinned new houses together for a pretty brief period of time. I remember it was in the winter because it was freezing ass cold.
Yeah.
It's like, this is
Drills wouldn't run very good.
Couldn't keep your feet warm. But gosh, as far as when I went to work at Fort Collins Heating, very seldom. I mean, we didn't because he was running the business and I was doing service. We didn't like work together and do jobs. I mean, I'm sure we've done some jobs together, but not very many.
Not day in and day out.
Not like Vic and I had
Yeah,
done
yeah. You
many,
guys
many
worked
years
together a
of
lot.
install together.
So was it hard working for your buddies?
No, it never really was. I mean, we just always had a mutual respect and I don't know. It's kind of like when we moved in as roommates. We just kind of clicked and didn't annoy each other, I guess, and like I
Yeah.
said, mutual respect is kind of the thing we even now after 25 years of working together. I know what he expects from me, and I feel like it's reciprocal, and
Yeah.
it just always has worked out.
Yep. How about you, Dad? Was it hard working for you? I always thought about that. Like, you know, it felt weird at first for me to like send you out on a job or, you know, and I think about it, I wasn't
do anything to help
Yeah.
business grow.
Yeah. It was really something that he trusted me to just, you know, run with the business. And I think about it now sometimes because you came to work for me when you were not too much younger than I am now.
Right.
And you were running in and out of crawl spaces and attics and
Yeah.
Was it the first time you ever told your dad what to do?
Yeah. Yeah. You
He
know,
had to listen anyway.
it was tough sometimes, but you know, I think the secret to working with friends and family and now my kids, it's like I think you have to be able to wear the, you know, the boss hat sometimes and then the you know, the
Family
friend or family hat. And it's tough. I mean, we've had uncomfortable conversations here and
Yeah.
there, you know.
That's right.
We got the name HR, Vic, 'cause
Yeah.
used to, right?
It
You had,
fit the bill.
huh?
It fit the bill.
It fit
right.
the bill, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. I was like, Dad, you can't talk to people like that. You can't tell those kind of jokes, you know. It's
H and I.
That's head nerd in charge.
That's right.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it worked, you know, and I think
We made it work.
yeah, I think like John said, it's just it's mutual respect and staying humble and just realizing, you know, you know, we got to get work done and right,
We got it done.
we got it done and
And make a profit.
yeah, try to make a profit. Sometimes that was tough and
Sometimes
still
that
is
didn't work.
sometimes. Yeah.
But we learned go with the times and raise our prices and enough to where we was making you a profit. And
Yeah.
I think that's important. Talking about that is just that was something I had to learn going into sales is not being the low price guy because you can't really run an effective business and you can't treat your customers right if you're always the low price guy and you don't have any money left over to do things right and to treat your employees right and to follow through and
Yeah.
take care of problems when they come up.
Yeah, when things go wrong, you got to pay for it, and we've experienced that even recently. There's you know, things don't always go well, and you know, you have to just make it right. And
Yeah.
so if you're going to exist long term in a small town, you know.
John, do you have any memories of maybe what would be highlights working for Fort Collins in air conditioning?
Oh gosh, a lot of them really. I mean, I feel like I've been blessed to be. I mean, I always think about, you know, people ask me why didn't you go start your own business, and there was plenty of times where I thought of doing that, but Glenn's always been very generous with the company in general. He's always poured back into it. I know a lot of other business owners, heating and air conditioning business owners that, you know, are in it more for their own personal profit. And Glenn spent a lot of years taking every bit of it and putting it back into the company and has always treated me very fairly and made it hard to leave, honestly. I mean, our relationship and then just creating something together that was, I don't know, it's just proud to be a part of it. And I don't know, individual highlights, I think, just looking back on where we came from with 3 or 4 of us to where we're at now is it's just something to be proud of, I guess.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything really
70
particular.
I heard this morning 75 employees.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's hard to imagine, really.
And how many trucks?
42.
43 or something, I think,
42,
on the road.
43.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a bigger machine now, and
Yeah.
I think about sometimes how critical it is, just the staff, the people, the staff, and I'm sure I don't um, give enough thanks, uh, but man, it's humbling for sure. It's like it's a machine that
I tell you, one of the highlights is where we're at right now. I think is a major highlight is over the years we've gone kind of ebbs and flows of the people that have been part of Fort Collins Heating, and we've had struggles, and I'll tell you the people that we have there right now and the team that we have is, I don't think it's ever been like it is. Just the quality of people and the energy that we have and the environment that there is to work in. It's never been like that in the 25 years I've been there. From every department, it was just such high quality people, and it's not always been like that. We've had people that
yeah. When it changes, I mean, people come and go,
Yeah.
and that's just a natural thing. But yeah, we've got a great team of people, and it's become a something that I'm proud of, and we've I think we've really been able to make an impact in the community too. We've done a lot. You think about how many pieces of equipment we put in, and
crazy. The other
how
day
many
you told me we have been 75 service calls in a day. Like, I mean, that's a lot
every
of
day.
houses you're constantly in.
Yeah.
Plus all the installations you're in over and over and over, and to be able to maintain um, a high rating and you're obviously not going to make everybody happy, but the percentage of people that we do more than satisfy that are thrilled to recommend us to somebody else, and it's a testament to the people that work here, and it's just
Yeah.
it's not about you anymore being you're not face to face with the customers. It's about
No.
the guys that are in houses every day and the people that
Yeah.
are on the phone, and just but it's been something that wasn't easy to put together.
No.
Just
Yeah.
find the right people.
Yeah. No, it's not easy. That's for sure. But you're right. It's the people. I was talking to a couple of the service techs this morning or yesterday morning, and one of them was, we encourage them to get a certain amount of revenue per day and all that, and but it doesn't trump taking care of the customer. We had an installation we did not too long ago, and I'm still trying to figure out why we didn't put a certain type of filter in there, but for some reason it didn't get the filter that we would normally put in with this system, and it's causing problems. And we'd been out there a couple times, once to service it, just a routine maintenance, and then it was freezing up, and he stuck it out. He was trying to figure out what to do and how to communicate with the customer and what to do the right thing, and he was out there for 2-3 hours, just trying
Right.
to make sure we were diagnosing it the right way and that we were going to take care of the customer. And but yeah, it's I think the point that I'm making is that we've been able to keep our core values. The the staff knows what they're supposed to do. The technicians know how we're supposed to treat the customer.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you as a salesperson, that makes life a lot easier when you're out in front of the customer and you can look them in the eyes and tell them that even if something doesn't go right, we're going to stand by it, we're going to make it right, and know that the guys that we're going to send to their house are going to be top quality and they're going to get a super high quality job. We've hired guys from other companies in my department where that wasn't always the case. You don't know what you're going to get when you sell a job and you send somebody out there. And I just I don't think like I said, I don't think it's ever been better than it is now over all the years. I
No.
think we've had ebbs and flows of people lots of different people over the years, but I don't think we've ever had a collective group like we have now that's
Yeah.
even close.
And it's hard to scale that, you know.
Yeah.
It's not easy to scale it that way. It's easy when it's 3 or 4 of us. But to get to 70,
when there was like 15 or 20, that was a real struggle because you have the same overhead as a big company, but you don't have the revenue, so you can't do all the things you can do as a bigger company. It's that you get that, like, hit that wall almost,
yeah.
and
There's definitely these it's like a stair step, you know, you cruise along and then to get to the next level you got to spend a bunch of money or go through a bunch of challenges and then to get to the next level. And yeah, it's each step of the way is a challenge for sure. And then of course for me, I'm like, you know, I came from being an installer and a service technician and had to learn, you know, how to run a business. You know, luckily I had some you know, gifts, you know, God-given talents for that, but and learned a lot, you know, together when we were in our multi-level business together. That helped a lot, but you just have to learn as you go, you know.
figure it out or you don't.
Figure it out or sink or swim. SOS.
You're either gonna figure it out or you're not.
Or you're not. Yeah.
So, John, you've had a lot of success in your career, but what's the toughest thing you ever had to go through in your
Oh boy. Oh, it's all been easy.
career?
Working for Glenn's uncle when I first started.
That was hard.
It was actually kind of tongue in cheek, but I almost quit doing this. I was thinking, second guessing myself, like maybe I'm not cut out for this, you know. And I don't mean to throw him under the bus or anything. I mean, we get along good now, but it was a struggle at first, and then just going from being a service technician and an installer going into sales. It's not for everybody, I guess. It's a completely different mindset. My thought was always as a service technician was to fix things, you know. And when you go in to sell, my thought was always to try to get them the best
Cheapest.
thing to fix it or to get it better, and that's not always what people want. And it took me a number of years to figure that out. I wasn't there to do what I would do or it was what they wanted and figure out what the customer was. So that challenge of moving from a repair mindset to more of a sales, not selling. We still don't sell people what they don't need, but letting them make that decision instead of me be the one that decides. You know, I used to talk people out of higher end systems when I first started. It's like, oh, you don't need that, or financing, you know, you don't want to go into debt and stuff like that. You know, that's not for me to decide.
No.
Because it's the right situation for some people, but
Yeah. You know what they want. You have to ask the questions. Right. What's important to them.
Yeah, and that's really all we do is just solve people's problems and what they want, what, you know, help guide them for the right choice, but what they want, not what we think is the best. But
mm-hmm.
Is that the most rewarding part of your job, is solving people's problems?
The paychecks, no. Yeah, it's getting, you know, just feedback from customers that there's, you know, I really love is when I see the reviews come in and they're just so thrilled with, like, you talk them through this whole process. They're replacing an old system and they have no idea, and they replace it with something that's the new technology that we use, these modulating piece of equipment, and they just have no idea, or a ductless system, and then when they get it, they're just completely blown away by how it works compared to their old system and how good a job we did. And when they write a review about our installers and how fantastic they were and amazing, and that to me is very satisfying, and to know that they got what they paid for and they're super happy about it. So.
Yeah. Keeping customers happy.
Yeah.
Main thing.
It's a lot better than the ones that aren't.
Yeah.
Thankfully, there's not too many of those. Some days it seems like it I'm sure, you know, I was thinking about that with like Jesse doing QA, and he's just always dealing with the customers that have a problem. But we got, you know, hundreds and hundreds of satisfied customers for every one that isn't, but he's always dealing with those ones. It's got to be tough sometimes to remember that.
Yeah.
one in a needle in a haystack.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I used to handle all of the customer complaint calls at one point in the business. I wanted to have a pulse on all of that, and it does get a little wearing when we start to get to a size that you have one every day,
Right.
or a couple times a week at least, right?
Like
A complaint,
everybody's unhappy.
and I think, man, everybody's unhappy. Well, no, we did, at that point, I think we were doing probably 30, 40 calls a day, and 2 or 3 installs a day,
Right.
plus some new construction. Like if you think about all the touch points, you know, and honestly, we might have even fewer complaints now, in ratio to
Yeah, for the
Yeah.
volume.
yeah, for the volume. It's um, a lot of the complaints we get are driving complaints.
Yeah. That's the
Yeah.
hardest
A
thing.
couple of, I think if you were to look through all the 1-star reviews, it's at least a good chunk of them are, driving, trying to get to the job site, and speeding or,
Or
Got to get back from lunch in time to get done.
That's right. Yeah.
and get a breakdown.
Yeah. And those flames, I think it just makes the trucks that much faster,
Probably.
Well,
it's a good thing we don't have Chevys, or they'd all be a lot faster. We'd probably get a lot more complaints.
This is getting deep. We've been,
Stop it right
Now the light came on your
Yeah.
camera.
there. Oh, do they?
And maybe that'll help.
Burns battery down fast.
So I want to know, John, after 35 years in the HVAC business, have you learned everything you can possibly learn?
Probably after 10 years, I was good. No, I think one of the things about our industry is it's just changed so much. I mean, we were talking about it earlier about how we do installs, and there's just always something new. There's new products, new techniques, there's new demands from the customers. I don't think it'll ever end. I don't think you can ever. I mean, it's probably the same
It's
with
always
any industry.
evolving.
Yeah, is there any industry that I think once you know it all, you think you know it all, then you're probably time to quit.
Yeah.
For sure.
how about you, Dad?
I
You probably forgotten more than I know.
yeah, but I look at the new equipment I can't work on. You have to have special equipment to work on the high efficient stuff, and I don't have it. You can't. I can look at it and say something or do something, but it's pretty specialized anymore, right? It's not a homeowner can fix thing like it used to be.
One thing is, a lot of the electronics are all printed in a circuit board, so sometimes the technicians, they don't. I think some of the younger technicians can't really picture. Like we had relays, physical relays, and stuff like that, that we'd have to diagnose, and it's all part of the circuit board now. And either the board's bad, or replace the board, or
And the boards are getting very expensive on the high efficiency equipment.
Yeah.
Things, so.
Some things you lose a little bit, as technology goes along. You lose a little bit of that knowledge because some of it's done for you in the calculations, or even with the layout machine. I remember I never learned how to do some of the sheet metal layout that you know how to do. From just laying out a squared around or something on a piece of metal. I never learned that piece from you because we had a machine that could print it out and do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So yeah, there's a lot that that.
Yeah, and it's going away. I mean, computers and layout machines and stuff. It changes. Everything changes, and you have to embrace it.
You just have to know different stuff, even though there's tools like the automotive industry. You can have a plug in a computer, but you still have to know
how to diagnose,
how to read that, and how to pull the right information.
It just changes.
Yeah.
It just changes, and you have to know more of some things now than you did before, but there's things that are lost a little bit along the way too.
Yeah.
Now we got.
Vic, I just want to know, how the HVAC industry has served you and your family in making it the life that you wanted it to be.
I think any industry, if you go in with the attitude that you're going to be the best or try to be the best, you'll make a decent living with it. I used to tell people that were early hires or something, I said, it don't matter where you go, plumber, electrician, or anything. Look and see what the lifestyle of the guy that impresses you or anything, and where he's retiring or looking and living, how he turned out. If that's where you want to live and turn out, that was the best advice I ever thought to give to somebody. It's been very good for me and my family. It's a learning experience and learning curve all the way through.
It's an honest living,
It's an honest living.
right?
And the thing is we've always driven the honesty, integrity into our business, where a lot of companies do not. I think that is the key right there.
Yeah.
Not being out for the quick buck.
Right. You're there for the customer as a lifelong customer.
So what would you say to a kid now who maybe doesn't know what they want to do with their future?
And it'd be the same thing. I'd say, if you're wanting to be in construction or trades, there's always going to be electrician, a plumber, or a HVAC guy needed, period. And if you're good and study your work right, I think you'll make a real good living at it. The integrity of the company or your.
Sorry.
But John, how would you feel if your kids went into the
I'd be perfectly happy with it. I have no regrets. I think, like Vic said, I mean, it's really not the specific industry, it's what you put into it. I do think there's always an opportunity in the trades, and there will be for a long time. I mean, maybe somewhere down the line it changes to where there's not, but right now there's so much opportunity, and it pays better than it ever has because the demand is there, and you could literally live anywhere you want to live in the country. Every time we travel all over the place, and it doesn't matter what city you're in, you can go get a job in one day as an HVAC professional if you're good at what you do. That's the key too. It's not, it's like with anything. You want to be good at what you do, but there's just a lot of opportunity. The pay is very good. It's, like I said, it's better than it ever was. I think there's, because of the shortage in trades in general, that the pay has gotten better. Just because of the need and the shortage of people, and it's driven that. So, I would be happy if any of my kids decided to do that.
So where do you see the HVAC industry going? Do you think there's a certain direction it's going to go?
Just more efficiency, more technology stuff. I mean, I think some of the stuff that we're seeing now, the cost of heating and cooling a house is going to get less and less, partly because of how we build houses, but the equipment is really made a lot of advances, and I'd say in the last 10 or 15 years, the efficiency of some of the stuff is ridiculous. I mean, it costs pennies to heat and cool a building or a house now compared to what it did 20 years ago.
Vic, did they have an efficiency rating when you started?
No, it started probably maybe in the 70s, where they started rating the percentage of a furnace, 40, 60%, or SERs of a compressor. And they're getting so much, you could only, on a furnace, they got it 98, 99%, right?
Right.
And you can't get 102, I don't think.
Not yet.
Not yet.
They do. We did some of these geothermal systems that we do now are like 42 EER.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable how little energy it takes to run some of the stuff now. But I think they'll just keep pushing that, and as the demand for it grows, it's just ingenuity and people are looking for new ways to do stuff and make it better, just like we always have been. It's part of makes America great, right? It's the drive to be better and figure out a better way to do it.
Yeah, for sure.
I really think that the equipment that we're selling today at the brand that is top of notch. You don't have trouble like you do on some installations of other equipment. It seems like one brand that we used for years that seems like we were the Annie, whatever they call it, they send it out, and you'd have a problem with it. Oh, I never heard about that before. And every third one we installed is having that same problem. So, yeah, we were the trial and error people.
Yeah, I think having the right partnership with the brand you sell is definitely important to know that they have
backup,
good research and development before it comes out, and it's not just thrown out there to be the next thing.
Yeah, and that was the problem with the one brand.
The one brand.
The one
the
brand.
Unnamed
You
brand.
won't say the brand, but Lennox or
Yeah.
yeah.
That was It's just and there's certain brands as a service person that you learn what not to want.
Right. That's funny. I tell customers all the time, like now with all this big push for heat pumps, because there's a lot, people get online and they read research. A lot of the stuff is antiquated information. And they talk about how heat pumps are not reliable and this and that. And I remember back as a service technician, when a heat pump call would come in, it was like, who drew the short straw to take that call, because they were a nightmare to work on. And now they're no different than working on an air conditioner. I mean, it's solid state controls and it's pretty straightforward. So that kind of stuff is, I think it'll just keep getting better for the most part. I mean, somebody will probably come up with new technology in the next 20 years that we can't even imagine now. But
right.
Hey, Vic, what do you miss most about being out in
me?
When you're out in the field, the interaction with your customers, and my goal, anytime if they weren't happy or anything, I worked on them slowly. They usually were smiling when I left. That was my goal, to get them not be a person when they call for a service. They, in their mind, before you get there, they're thinking all the worst of this somebody. If they don't know you, your first time there, they're thinking all the worst things or scenarios. So the best thing to do is try to get them at ease when you walk in, and you go and do your job and equipment. And that was always my goal, I think, to get the customer.
Get them to trust you, to build that trust. Yeah.
Yeah, get them to trust you, and
I ran into you're talking about that. I ran into a customer that you and I did an install many years ago, and I won't name her name, but I remember the story. I probably won't make it video, but we showed up to her house. It was like our third AC install of the day, and
it was late.
It was late afternoon, and Vic shows up, and she's like, "Oh, I'm so glad you guys are here. Anything I can get for you?" He goes, "If you want us to stay here and finish this air conditioner, you need to go get us a 6-pack of beer." and I thought he was joking. I was probably 19 or 20.
And I sort of was.
Like, and he looked at her like he was dead serious. She hopped in her car and left, came back, and we stayed and finished the air conditioner. But 30 years, 25 years later, whatever.
That's
Well,
all
that
she
was actually, it's
remembers.
probably 30
Did you
years.
sell her another?
No, she didn't remember it, but I remember because I went, yeah, we ended up selling her at a different house, obviously,
Yeah.
that she was in, but I told her that story, and she just laughed. She thought it was so funny.
Did she remember it?
No, she remembered that we had done the install, like,
She didn't remember
she
the
remembered
request.
Vic, but she didn't remember that part of
That's
it.
funny.
We had a good laugh over it, but
Yeah.
obviously
But it was somebody
different,
I knew prior.
different, yeah,
Yeah.
different
No.
times.
Yeah.
So how long since you've been in the field?
Who, me?
Yes, you.
Like as an installer or
As a-
service?
Either one.
2009 is when I started doing sales for Four Columns Heating. I was about 22 years of service and install, kind of mixed. And then, like I said, Glenn got too busy to do sales, and he asked me if I wanted to.
So
do
you
that,
really
and
haven't been out in the field since then?
Not really, no. When I first started, I was doing sales and the QA side of it. So everything I sold, I would go back and do the quality assurance afterwards, especially when the rebate stuff started. I would go
Mhm.
do all the test out stuff, and it just got to be too much to do at once. But yeah, so it's been since '09.
Yeah, we'd QA our own sales for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my wife wasn't very happy about it because I had made the most I'd ever made that year doing service at that time, and she's like, "What are you doing? Why would you go into sales? It's going to be." In the first year, I did make less, and then ever since then, it's
Been more.
been better.
Yeah,
She's
you had to
glad.
take a step backwards at first.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's interesting to mention because I think sometimes the sense of a lot of installers or service techs that have done it for years, and I think, well, when I get tired and my body gets tired, I'll just go into sales, and
It was
it's
a
just like
tough
it's
learning
easy,
curve, for
right?
sure.
And it's a different skill set, and you get used to making a certain income being a great service technician, and then
Yeah.
go into a commission sales position. It's a little different.
Kind of got my ass kicked the first year.
Yeah.
I don't think
Would you
Don
go
was
back
too-
to doing service now?
No.
No.
No, I just laugh. I said I probably would have switched into sales sooner, but I think part of the value I bring to customers now is the fact that I did do that for a lot of years, and I can speak to that and build that trust we were talking about with
Mhm.
the customer easily because they know that I know what I'm talking about too. So it's a trade-off, but it's definitely not for everybody. Like I said, earlier we were talking about just changing that mindset of being a technician. You want to fix stuff, you want to repair it. You know.
Trying to save him money,
Yeah.
get him going, be
And
the
the-
hero of getting it fixed, right?
And there's some satisfaction. That's one
Oh,
thing
sure.
I miss about doing install is being able to just the
Get back and
artistic
look.
piece of it when you get done with something and looking at it and knowing that you don't
Yeah.
get that in sales at all. You get the sale and then you move on to the next one, and you have, I don't know, just being able to look at your work is nice to have that for sure.
It is rewarding. I miss that myself, actually. Sometimes I just want to escape the office and go back out and work in the field sometimes because it is satisfying, just being able to see a sense of accomplishment during the day, and
Yeah.
I got this system installed, or I fixed this many air conditioners and got people going, and there's definitely a reward in our work too. You can kind of be the hero, especially you go out. Nobody likes doing on call, but boy, people sure appreciate you when you come out at night and
Yeah.
get them heat or air conditioning, and it does feel good to be able to be that hero of the day.
Yeah. Well, and then just as an installer too, as I say, I was talking earlier about the quality of work that we do now, to be able to take some of these old crappy installs and turn them into what we do now and how they look after we're done is
Artwork.
really, and
Yeah.
these guys are so good at what they do too. And
Yeah.
it just doesn't look anything like what it did when we got there. Some of those before and after pictures and there's just a lot of satisfaction in that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else do we need to hit on?
Got it all. I mean,
You got good? You got enough content there?
I do. And just know that this last bit quality of the picture's
Video.
not going to be as good because the lighting is so bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's great.
Cool.